chicken nuggets, sausage, and ham. What do these mouth-watering delectables have in common? They all contain meat. Yes, meat. For many of us, it's a staple of our diet. We eat it every day at dinner, sometimes at lunch, and at breakfast. Look around you. If you're like the average Canadian, you consume close to 140 pounds of meat this year. That's more than some of us weigh. But for all you meat lovers, the future of the meat industry could be headed for trouble. Not just because of the negative public image surrounding the meat industry, but because the meat industry is actually being strained under the current demand. When I was doing my research, I came across one poll that promised that the current meat industry, as it is, would be overwhelmed by 2050. So what can we do? Honored judges, ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to introduce my vote for the next generation of meat, for meeting the increasing demand. I would like to introduce in vitro meat. It's meat that's grown inside a petri dish. It's meat that has never been part of an animal, and it has the potential to be faster and more environmentally friendly. Kind of sounds like a science fiction fantasy, doesn't it? And until a few years ago, it was a fantasy. But in 2013, a group of Dutch researchers actually created a patty in a petri dish, and it was chowed down at a conference in London. So how do they do it, you ask? Well, here's the gist of it. At the beginning, they take a few stem cells from, say, a cow, if we're trying to make beef. Now, stem cells aren't just any cells. You can kind of think of them as some of us competitors, in that they don't really know what they want to be when they grow up. Kind of like how we don't really know either sometimes. So we take these undecided cells and we put them into a growth medium, and it's here that they begin to multiply. Next, we move them into another growth medium, this time with almost all the nutrients sucked out, and in this deprived environment, the meat will begin to specialize into muscle cells. They are actually called myofibrils, and they look like floppy pink noodles. And by pressing these noodles together, we can get a basic meat patty. As for actually making this meat available to the masses, well, that's going to take some work. For me, I see two main hurdles to making this happen. The first is simply making it realistic so that people will want to eat it, so that people will want to invest in this new technology. That means creating a taste and texture that is convincing. How do we do that? In reality, meat is an intricate weave of nerves and blood vessels and fat cells and muscle cells. We don't yet have the sophistication to achieve that. So the next step for me would be to develop the technology so that we can build the elements of meat together. One idea that they are testing currently is inventing a scaffolding, which is kind of like a framework. By attaching elements of the meat to this frame, we can begin to imitate the complex architecture of a muscle. The second challenge is making this accessible. Remember that meat patty I mentioned in London? It costs quite a bit. 215,000 pounds to be exact. That's a little more than most of us can afford over here. So to make it accessible, we would have to industrialize the production process. And to do that, well, it brings us back to the realistic question, so that people would want to eat this meat, so they would be willing to invest in it. However, if we can work past these challenges, in vitro meat could alleviate many current problems that we are facing right now. For one, animals pass gas quite a bit, and that produces a significant amount of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere. In fact, I read one article that stated that we get more greenhouse gases from animals per year than we do from all the cars in the world combined. Speaking of animal waste, the move from industrial feedlot to laboratory could also mean we could stop worrying about contamination. If some of you remember the E. coli scare with beef in 2014, that could become much less of a threat without having to worry about meat getting in contact with animal feces. And because we can bypass the animal's whole growing system where the animal has to feed its energy to the bones and edible organs, we could probably also look at making meat faster and therefore more able to meet demands. You might not see in vitro meat today or tomorrow at your grocery store, but the researchers in London promise that meat will be a product as soon as 2020. And remember that whopping 6-figure price tag? It's slated to fall even further. In fact, 2 days ago, I checked a news article and it said that meat patties now cost $11.36. So what else do hamburgers, hot dogs, and steak, and chicken nuggets, and sausage, and ham have in common? They can all be replaced someday with in vitro meat. After all, it has already begun to showcase some of the benefits that it could give our meat industry. In vitro meat is on its way to becoming the future of meat production. It's on its way to becoming the next generation of agriculture.